You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Happy Thursday, but by the time that any of you listen to this, it will be Friday. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. We didn't do one yesterday because someone, despite how zealous they were about their move and how much they thought getting the keys at 9 and starting the move at 10, it's a mile away from where I was coming from. I was like, yeah, I'm going to have this all done by 3. I'm going to be set up. I wasn't. I just finished watching the Michigan hockey game, and unfortunately they lost, and finished setting up the temporary studio, which is going to be probably about 6 months, maybe less, maybe more. Anyway, I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Holt, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. We'll get to more of my move later because there's at least some questions here and stuff. But I also didn't get the internet set up until 11. They gave me a self-install kit. There was no, because they're like, yeah, you have a cable there. Turns out when they remodeled this house before I bought it, it did not, they cut it. So I had to come and do that again. But nonetheless, I am here with my desk for the first time since the day after the Ohio State game. I'm completely set up as I was in Ann Arbor. I'm just coming to you live from Fenton. Forgot to even, if you're watching on YouTube, I forgot to bring my backing lights. There's obviously, I don't have much depth of field here behind me. And unfortunately, that's going to be the case until we move into the studio area. But let's get to it. We're going to do the Michigan Mailbag, starting with our leaders and best. James Crudup at James Crudup 6. If JJ stays for 2 years, do you believe that the next starting QB is on the roster right now after he leaves? How long do you think Minter and Moore stay at Michigan? I would say if Michigan has similar success as to what it had these last 2 years, or let's say Michigan goes to the national championship game, wins it all, doesn't win it all, I would imagine one of them is going to get a head coaching opportunity, or Minter will get an NFL DC job. So I can't imagine you're going to be hanging on to those guys for too long. Eventually someone's going to get it, say, we need someone, we're going to take one of your guys. That's the product of success. As far as if JJ stays for 2 years, the next starting QB on the roster right now, well, it won't be Jack Tuttle. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Alex Orji, at least for a year. Give Jaden Davis some time, or if it's Davis Warren. The thing is, we just don't really know. But I mean, Davis Warren has been impressive with what he's been able to do. So, he's looked impressive 2 straight spring games. That's a good quality situation to have. Josh Barr at Jadiki. The back half of the schedule is absolutely stacked this year. Generally, losing late in the year can kill a season, so it would be better if some of our harder games came a little earlier in the season. I mean, certainly, but I mean, there's also the ramp up, right? Like, it's not dissimilar whatsoever from 2021. It's pretty much the same in most every way. In the sense of the last 3 games are exactly the same in the exact locations. Maryland might be more of a problem. Penn State might be more of a problem. Ohio State might be a little bit less of one. That's what I would think. Michigan State falls around the same time as it does every year. You got a Purdue game there at the first, with 4 weeks to go. It's really about the same as 2021. So I don't think it's that big of an issue. Obviously, you want to keep Ohio State that last game of the season. I would have preferred Penn State being earlier in the season, but sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles. What needs to change for playoff game success? I'm not 100% sure. I just know that they need to figure out. They just need to not. They need to execute and not get too too cute. They were way too cute in this one. So, my brother in metal, Michael Wolf at MWolf21, on a scale of 1 to 10, how broken are Ohio State fans right now? If Michigan finishes ahead of them in the recruiting rankings, do they explode? I think that they're probably at about a 7. And if Michigan finishes ahead of them, no, I don't think they'll explode, but I think that they'll hang on to the same stuff that they always do. It's like I go on to I try not to read Facebook comments, just like I try not to read many in the YouTube comments. Sometimes I go because I know sometimes y'all ask me questions. Sometimes I get really weird ones. What was I going to say? Sometimes I go in the Facebook comments and you see, like, if it's something that's like, hey, Michigan says that they're looking forward to, that they're going to try to get back to the Big Ten championship game, and or something of that ilk. It's like you see a bunch of laughing emojis, and I can't help myself. Because anytime that there's an article about Michigan potential future success, there's laughing emojis, and I click and see who it was, and every single time it's Ohio State fans. And sometimes there's some banter in the Facebook comments that are just like they act like the last 2 years didn't happen, like, oh, we own you. So they're in denial. If you want to go 5 stages of grief, they're currently in how does it go? Denial, bargaining, anger, sadness, acceptance. They're still somewhere between bargaining and denial. I don't remember which one comes first. I was in a little short film at Michigan called The 5 Stages, so I should know. It was my friend Debashis directed it. You can probably find it on YouTube. It's just called The 5 Stages. All right, moving on. KRT at FarmerK84. Good luck moving. That's always stressful. So this is where I wanted to answer that, even though we're already about the time that we're supposed to move on. It was just a comedy of errors with multiple things. So I want to give a quick shout out to Danny O'Brien, my realtor. He did an amazing job. I don't know the Tennessee cheer. Just Rocky Top. You just say Rocky Top. I tried looking it up and I couldn't get a very good, but he played for Tennessee. So, played defensive line for Tennessee for the Volunteers. So I gotta give him a Rocky Top, and a big shout out to Michael Coriasso and Charlie Hoover for getting me across the finish line, because I am obviously in my second day here at the house. It was extremely stressful. It just did not go quite as easily as I thought. I'm still unpacking. I'm still getting stuff going here. But yeah, I don't remember what else I was going to say. Will Hail Impact be an NIL game changer? Or is it similar to any other NIL collectives already up and running? I mean, they're talking about it like it will be an NIL game changer. I can't remember the differentiation. I did know what it was, but I'm like most of you, except for I'm probably a lot less curious. I'm still just kind of in wait and see mode with it. Like, when it starts changing things, then I'll probably be like, okay, cool. But right now, I don't even know. Finishing us out in segment 1, Jonathan Joseph at JJoseph2156, which is bigger, bringing back the players or bringing back the staff, all pretty much intact. I'm going to go with the players because they're the ones with the experience. You very rarely see, like, we've talked a lot about returning production on this show. And it's one of those things where generally you don't sit there and say, yeah, that team's going to be really good. Their staff is back. It's the players, right? It's usually that's the thing that's the through line that tells you whether or not a team is going to be good. Northwestern, in the years that they've been good, they've had a lot of returning talent. 2020, I remember I discounted at my own peril the fact that they were going to be pretty good. Whereas not 2020, 2019. I can't remember what year. Whatever year I'm thinking of. It might have been 2020. But they were pretty good. In the years that they were pretty good, it's like you sit there and look at the production chart, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, they're pretty good. And then everyone, like, it was 2020, because 2021, everyone's like, oh, Northwestern's going to be so good. And I'm looking at it, they're dead last in the Big Ten. I'm like, what are you talking about? And also, they lost Mike Hankwitz, but I mean, it's generally the players are the bigger deal. All right, we are going to move on and continue forward here in just a moment. But the NBA playoffs are almost here, and now is a perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and threes drained. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Ever since we started doing these on video, I've always had like at least an immaculately designed space. I totally forgot to grab lights. I haven't gotten my bookshelves from the storage unit yet to put back there. I have the door open, so I don't even know what you'd be able to see anyhow. But we're going to figure it out. We're going to make this look good. The sound might be a little reverby, because I have vaulted ceilings and wood floors, but we're just going to have to deal. We're just going to have to, I'm probably not going to get a bunch of acoustics and stuff like that. That's probably not going to happen, because this is a temporary space in this house until we build out the studio in the outbuilding. So, FYI. All right. Let's go on to our Victor's Valiant, starting with Spencer Whitmore, at Spencer Whitmore. With Sharon's new incentive-based contract, you see them trying to run up the score now in non-conference, lower-level Big Ten games, or still be conservative like previous years until Ohio and MSU. Well, the non-conference, they have kind of run up the score, right? They're usually not doing that. As far as the lower-level Big Ten games, maybe, but I mean, there's just very much in this, like, we're going to do what it takes to win. I don't think the philosophy is going to change that much, even if there's money involved, right? I just don't. I still think that I don't think they're going to become Ohio State, right? Who's out, they've got CJ Stroud out there in the fourth quarter with a 30-point lead, Like, I just don't think that they're going to do that. That's just not a Jim Harbaugh type thing. Regardless if Jerome Moore wants to. I mean, maybe they'll try to run up the score, but they'll do so with the next men up, I think, would be the thing. Clark at Blue for Life 8. Do you expect any players to transfer before summer camp if they feel like they won't have as big of a role on the team as expected now that spring ball is pretty much over? Don't need to name any, but just curious on your thoughts on that. I'm sure there will be. There always is. It's the transfer portal doesn't open up till May 1st. So I think that certainly someone will definitely depart. I mean, there's guys that, and I'm always a not named names guy, and because I don't know, right? Number one at the moment, but I'm gonna say, like, if you're someone like Christian Dixon who hasn't really gotten anything going, including in the spring game, do you want to wait it out? I think it's also a thing is he's entering his third year. Do you stay, get your degree, and then go? Or do you stay, get your degree, bide your time, and hope to become a bigger part of the offense? He looked really good, for instance, in the bowl prep when I watched. But like a guy like that who, because you never know, right? Like I was gonna say, like a guy like that, it would be one that I would sit there and say, yeah, he's probably going to be, looking for somewhere else. But then you look at like Jalen Perry, who didn't, but was in kind of a similar situation, just on the other side of the ball. Again, I'm not saying Christian Dixon is going to transfer. I'm just saying someone like that who just seems like they're behind all these other players, which is disappointing because he was a 4-star. He had speed, similar speed, but not quite as fast as Xavier Worthy, and yet still struggling to get onto the field. Some people like that, I mean, maybe there's a surprise elsewhere. I don't know. But I think Michigan has also spent a lot of time trying to retain people. and that actually had hurt them in the past. And I think now they're just kind of like, all right, if you want to go, we'll figure it out with who we have. But certainly there's going to be a couple that go, and once the portal opens back up, for sure. James Kovalevsky at Coach_Kovo. Any chance conference title games go away, or do they generate too much revenue? I don't think they'll go away. I think they probably should if you're going to have these playoffs, the expanded and all of that. I don't think they will, though. They generate too much revenue. The new format allows the top four. This is Coach Kovo talking again. New format allows the top four ranked conference champs a bye, but could the potential for teams to play 16 or 17 games raise player safety concerns that lead to eliminating conference title games? I don't think so. And you keep in mind that if they go to the NFL, they'll play like 20. I know it's different. You're in school, it's all that kind of stuff. But no, I don't think they're thinking like that. They're thinking more is more, not less is more. Dan, I'm kind of fine with it, I guess. I don't know. Perry Mitchell at Perry Mitchell 08. The top guys at wide receiver are pretty entrenched, but next year seems wide open with all of the young talent. How much contribution are you looking for from the two deep this year to help them down the road? I don't think that they're going to be thinking about that, so I don't think I'm looking too much at it, right? Like, because I just don't think that that's something that they are considering. I think that they are very much like win now and the rest will work itself out. The good news is next year they'll have a lot of guys. We'll see who they bring in this year. No wide receivers committed at the moment, I don't believe. But at the same time, there's going to be a lot of guys that they're going to be able to get that maybe they wouldn't have because Jaden Davis is committed. So that's the good news. And then you got guys like Tyler Morris and Darius Clemens entering year 2 right now. They'll be year 3 next year. And then you've got Carmelo English joining Samaj Morgan and Frederick Moore. And Frederick Moore looked so good in the spring game. So good. So it will be wide open, but they won't be bereft of talent. We'll see who they're able to get this year as well. Amarian Stewart seems probably relatively likely. I wouldn't be surprised if a 5-star. No, Mylan Graham ended up committing to Ohio State. Jaden Davis supposedly said that he's working on flipping some Ohio State commits. We'll see how it changes. You can really hear my dryer from here, even though it's on the other side of the house. I'm going to have to learn to close the door when we're doing laundry. Anyway. Anton Sesmita Mangala at Sesmita Mangala. With 2 viable backups, you expect Michigan to let JJ off the leash a little bit more in terms of running? I hope so. I don't know that they will, but I think that's one of those things that every opposing coach had always said is like, you have to account for his legs. You have to account for his legs. And then Michigan was like, but we're not going to make you. So I think it would be great. But granted, they didn't know that they had viable backups. I mean, you could even say 3 because Alex Orji might be viable as a backup. So I hope that they do. Will they? I don't know. We have to see some kind of change in that front. Adam Kasel at Adam_Kasel. How many players did the basketball team get from the portal? So far, they got 1. And right now, Caleb Love is down to Michigan and Mizzou. I think they'll get 3. That just seems to be about the number that the Michigan basketball team gets, 2 or 3 every year. I think 3 is probably a good number considering that they lost 2 underclassmen. So, yeah. Ike Hamlin at Hamstand87. Is it becoming amusing how childish our Southern rivals are getting? Talking about fighting Mike Hart like kids at recess. Pathetic. In fairness, it was started by Taylor Lewan, who's a Michigan guy. All fairness, that's what that was. But Bussin' with the Boys is not a grown-up show, and that's fine. That's great for what it is. I haven't listened to it, but I know Taylor. I've met him several times. I have nothing but good things to say about my interactions with him and everything. He's just been great. Obviously, he was supposed to join the show and didn't, so maybe I have that one thing. But it's fun off-season fodder. I want more of that kind of stuff, to be honest. Finishing us out in segment 2, Mark Z at Mark Zimke is a very long-time listener. I find it fascinating that the amount of questions hardly ever overlap or are asked twice. You have a very unique audience. Well, sometimes they do, and I try to combine them. It doesn't always work, but I think that's why sometimes I think we got like 20 questions this week. You know, like we had like 18 last week. The week before it was like 45 or something like that. Sometimes it's a lot, and then sometimes I delete some that are if someone in the first two segments asks something that someone else is asking, I might not include the other ones. Let the regulars, and I might try to mention their name or something like that, because I want you all to feel included. This is your show just as much as it is mine. That sounds really cheesy, but it is. So that's that. All right, we've got more coming up here in just a moment. All right, Zuri has joined the show. I was thinking about doing this on my couch, and then she would just sit on my lap, I guarantee. But I also recognize that she would be climbing me because she likes to climb me. So, plus, I mean, it just feels good to be sitting back at the desk like once upon a time. All right. Dustin Wyckoff at Dusty1078. What is the status on Harbaugh's contract? I don't know. I don't believe it's done. We're waiting for NCAA to finish whatever it is they're doing. I don't think there's any kind of rush. He's obviously firmly entrenched. Also, with Hunter heading the portal, do you think the team has a chance of becoming a no-name team? In my opinion, Howard has been very good at getting players open shots, but always seems too much trying to force the ball to Hunter or Jet. I think it's certainly possible. I think you were right. You're right on that. I think what they just need to do is find guys who can shoot the ball and score, because that's kind of what's been the missing piece. Now, Hunter was really good, obviously, at scoring down low, but even this year, even though his numbers are up higher, it just felt like he was, I'd have to look. I would bet he was at a lower percentage of makes. I would bet that that's the case. I just think if you get shooters and everything, because the scheme is great, it just didn't, and this particular team did not seem like one that adhered a lot to Juwan's teachings, the patience and communication and all of that. This seemed like a team that was like, there's so many times where it was like, that guy is shooting a shot, he does not have an open shot, but he's doing it anyway, and if you made the extra pass or two, then it probably would have been better off. So yeah, I think that's certainly possible. We'll see. Stan at Dazed Confused 18. Tell us about your time at Michigan, your major, notable classes, any experiences that stuck out to you in sports classes or otherwise, not relevant to football, but still interesting. I might end up stretching that into an entire show. Maybe we'll do that. I'll give you a couple things here, but we'll talk my Michigan experience. Let's say Saturday, because I'm going to make up the show yesterday that I didn't get to do. But I was a film major, screen arts and cultures. Hence, I worked in Hollywood for 4 years after I graduated. My favorite classes were anything by, and I can't remember her name because I can't remember anything. Lucinda something. She was a South African. Anything from her and Mark Kligerman, who had about road trips movie, a road trip movie class. I don't remember how to say it. My horror movie class, and then the more difficult classical film theory as well as contemporary film theory. Those were heavy classes. I can't think of any. I actually really loved race, racism, and ethnicity. That was in the American culture department. We'll try to think. Well, maybe we'll come up. I don't know. I don't know if it's a whole show or even a whole segment. I will say that the thing that stuck out to me. Well, okay, the basketball team, which wasn't very good at all. John Beilein took over my senior year. And Beilein, he stuck out because I started working for Big Ten Network. That was the first year it was open because I was taking a TV studio class. They sent out an email that was like, anyone want to work this Michigan-Minnesota game? I was like, yes. And most people were like, I want to do the parabola mic. That I just get to work one day, stand there, watch the game, whatever. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want the bigger role, the 2-day utility, go set up the cameras, all that. And I made it in good with my cameraman who I was assisting. So he gave me the number to the crewer, the guy that crews like most of the TV thing, broadcast for live sports. And eventually that got me on a lot of Big Ten Network stuff. So Lots of gymnastics, men's, women's gymnastics, a couple basketball games. Well, I think it was the first basketball game. I was loading in camera equipment and the door opens and is held for me. And it's none other than John Beeline doing it. And it's like, dude, you don't have to. Like, you are the head coach and it's your first year here. You've got other things to worry about. But that was cool. I got to sit on the back of the basket. I think the biggest panic attack I've ever had was when my cameraman leaned back and said, we're going to half court in 30 seconds. And my cord was completely tangled. And I was already trying to untangle it. And I just ended up draping the cable over the people's feet and maybe laps that were sitting courtside. That wasn't the teams, thankfully. But it's kind of like, all right, you're just going to have to deal with it. I made it. So yeah, no, it was a cool experience. And that led me to being able to work for the NHL Network as a camera assistant for the Stanley Cup Finals in 2008. And they were the only ones not broadcasting live during the games. So I got to just watch the Stanley Cup Finals for free. All the home games. So that was cool. Maybe I'll get bored of my Michigan experience, at least for a segment on Saturday. We'll try that. DJ N, I read that is Ditton Jarin at Maze Rage 86 with all the mouths to feed on offense and growing young core at wide receiver. Has AJ Henning just been quietly pushed to special teams only? It kind of seems that way, but I don't know. We'll see. I wouldn't give up on him yet if he stays around, but it's just crazy because I do think like he's got so much potential and so much ability. And I know he's had some drops and everything, but it just feels like you're just wasting a player that could really do some special things. Matthew Ingles, I'm not sure which. M. Ingles will say 0890, can Coach Jim for tweet, as in Jim Harbaugh, like he used to and maintain the recent excellence of the program, but they win the Natty too? I don't understand the correlation between, he hasn't tweeted, obviously. I just don't think he wants to. And I think that if he wanted to, and the team was really good, yeah, they could do it all. George Paul Lewis at G13. Lewis, if Jaden Davis doesn't change his mind about his commitment to Michigan, do you think he'll develop into a great QB or turn out to be another Joe Milton? Let's be fair. Joe Milton was always a project. Jaden Davis is not. Jaden Davis already is making pro throws. Joe Milton was a project from the word go. It was not ever considered to be like, yeah, he's going to come in and he's going to change. Like, he was rated a 4-star based off of the fact that he could throw the ball over their mountains, you know? But he was always a project and really kind of only now starting to not be one. All right, is that it? The last one here is Jeff Johnson at LFG. Jeff, who's third on the team in rush attempts from the RBs this fall? Obviously, assuming non-injury. Blake, Don 1 and 2. I'm going to go Kalel Mullings, then CJ Stokes, then Ben Hall. And I know I just said that I think that Ben Hall will be ahead of CJ Stokes. I still think Stokes will get more carries, because I think he's more of an all-purpose back, whereas Ben Hall, I think they're going to use more as a short yardage guy. But yeah, I'm going to say I think Kalel Mullings will have that locked up. All right, that's going to do it, and we are back in 4K. Hopefully, we'll see how fast this internet is. See how it works. Thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you soon. Peace.